Martin Schwager, like lager beer, Schwager, Swiss. Okay, I was in before the war. I was a reserve officer. I got my commission finally by swearing in front of a notary public because I was a baby when I got my introduction at ROTC in UCLA. So I had a commission, and I'll tell you more later on, but I was an ROTC commissioned officer, second lieutenant, on about September the 5th of 1940. Well, I got into it, but I thought, you know, all of you, I don't know how you got in, whether you were drafted or volunteer otherwise, but I had a commission, and I went in because I was going to UC up here at the time. You had to finish your schooling there, and during my tenure there, up in the division, I met a girl who played a harp, which I moved for 67 years, almost. Some gaps there, but she passed away last December up here at the Kaiser. But dating her, working at Berkeley General and so forth, I thought I'd put in for 1 year. Well, I had been to Hawaii before. I worked on the Matson boats in between vacation, and I saw the old islands, a beautiful place. Geez, nice, good aroma, flowers and all that. So we got married down in the Mission, LA, but we had a 3-day pass like anything you get in the Army. But I went back to duty there, and then they said they want some officers for duty in Hawaii. Okay, we gave our quarters up there, but they didn't come in right away. Finally, about May or so, they called me in for a camp show and said, Schwager, your orders are in. No more dependents overseas. I shipped out of Fort Mason, but my wife was persistent. She got a cancellation about 2 weeks later on in Lurleen and joined me over there, but therefore there were no quarters on the base. We found a 2-bedroom shack or grass shack out at Waikiki, and that's where we were when things happened. But we commute to Fort Shafter, which lies between Honolulu, the city, and Pearl Harbor. So that was home, and we got involved with the community there. She took her practice teaching. I was a battery officer, second lieutenant in the 64th Coast Artillery Anti-Aircraft. I'd been in the 65th here at the Presidio in Fort Scott, Fort Barry. So anyway, that started my Army career. So we went routine. We had a prepared position. You had to go through Hickam Field, turn left, go on Fort Kamehameha, pass it in about another 2 miles. We had right on the coast. And my director would be here, and the water would be about where that back wall was. So that was a prepared position, and different batteries had different positions. So we were out there in field training. So, shall I go on? Okay. They called us back on, I guess it was Friday. It was we were a 3-inch mobile gun battery. We had powder train fuses. We didn't use a match. They had a thing it turned. But anyway, we went back to Shafter, and that night we had a reception for greeting new officers coming in, those transferring out. The next morning, I'm having the men clean up the equipment because we're right by the saltwater. And I think we went to a music thing on Saturday night, dinner. And then Sunday morning, we had a 2-bed place, which I had shared with Lieutenant Miller, who was from the University of Washington. I'd met previously. So we were having breakfast, sweet rolls, and had either Salt Lake City Tabernacle or one of the church programs on. And they said, we're being attacked. It's the real McCoy. All defense personnel report to their duty station. Well, we had kits, so my wife threw it in, Bob's stuff, and we got in my little Studebaker Champion, took off for Fort Shafter. We got through town, a lot of confusion. I have a hunch most of the things that blew up, there were fuses that weren't cut properly. They were cut probably from the anti-aircraft firing, because I don't think the Japanese would waste their bombs on the city itself. But anyway, we made our entrance through Fort Hickam Field at the gate. There were bodies there, people were waving us in, past the barracks, going down the road, past the barracks. We could see the initial hangars weren't burning, but further on they were burning. And then we made our right turn, Fort Kamehameha. Yeah, that was when I saw the other guy. There was a big red sun. The plane had apparently been hit about an hour or so before, because realized we had to put our guns back on the wheels to get them rolling. to our field position. So we passed this Japanese plane up, and I think hit 2 or 3 GIs who were standing near the shed there. So by the time we got guns in position, closed in the revetments, and got we didn't have electronics, we had electrical, all the wires and so forth, and oriented. We never fired a shot. And, well, you know, the emphasis was already nearly over. So we never fired a shot from our gun battery. We have had incidents, but we were there, ready. Official communication saying transports standing off Barber's Point. We implemented momentary landings. It never came about. The night was spectacular because the water was shallow, and you get little ripples on the sand where the water would run, and you get the reflection from the starlight and so forth. You've got rumors of gliders and landing, things like that, and you'll see a spray of machine gun tracers going on. But that was it in Hawaii. So where I stayed, our battery would, we would send token forces from the various batteries out to some sand spit in the Pacific to say this is ours, it's going to do much good. And then they'd come back burned black from the coral sand reflection. And one night, Schwager, you're going back stateside. I don't know how I got that. So my wife, who had been working with military intelligence, had to find a replacement, but we came back stateside, and I went from beautiful, wonderful Hawaii to the East Coast, Fort Eustis, Virginia. What a change of weather, December. It was a holding pattern. They'd assigned me a searchlight battery. You know, they go up at night there, but it was just temporarily until they had our particular spot in the school down at Camp Davis, Carolina. And there we got information on new equipment and so forth. They got the group together, was going to Fort Bliss, El Paso, where am I? I have to remember where I'm going. But they kept me for 2 more weeks of radar training out there in the ocean. Then I joined it. I was now a battery commander, where I had a nice van with parabolas on top, closed, not bed springs for radar, and a gun, and a lot of desert training, forced marches, dark nights, and all that. Well, finally, we got our orders to move to the east someplace. Well, I bid farewell to my wife, who'd also been part of the El Paso Symphony Orchestra, and we headed to the East Coast, Fort Dix, and then landed in Oran, Algeria. Now there we offloaded, moved the equipment from Oran over to Algiers, and set up air defense around the port of Algiers. Now remember, this is after the Rommel is over. That part was over. We set up air defense around Algiers, but there was no German Air Force. There made me a reconnaissance at 30,000 feet, so there's no real action. And we were there about a year, and the sister battalion, who went through the same training we did at Fort Bliss, you know, they made the landings at Anzio. So here again, it's always chance. Where were you going to land? Well, where we landed was Bridges Bardot country. It was, you know, Bridges Bardot country. But we were set up air defenses in Marseille, Port-la-Bouche, Bouches-du-Rhône, and then we went over to the Toulon, the French naval base. And there were these big pictures you probably saw in Life magazine before, the big French battleships and so forth. There were 2 beached there, one with a big hole in it, but no activity. So from there on, our last tactical position was at the Nazi marshalling yards. Still no German Air Force, occasional reconnaissance, but no active. So that's where we put our guns away, went up and went into POW work, winding up as operating the Switzerland Leave Center in Mulhouse in France. I was running a travel service, had about, I don't know, 10 maps they could choose from, and then every morning Swiss representative would come and take that particular group for a week trip into heaven with chocolate that would melt. They had ration tickets. I think they had $50 exchange. They'd had French girls manicuring the hands. They got no change of uniform. I think DeRocha was there too, but that was the end over there. So that was it.
Thank you. We have to stop you. And there will be